Hey everyone, my name's Amanda and I'm the Fun Size Reader, and I am bringing you guys all what you've been waiting for. Obviously, my review of Court by Tracy Wolff. So this book was a long time coming. We had to wait for it. It was supposed to come out at the end of September, early October of 2021, and now we finally got it, and damn y'all, she's a chunker. So we waited for this for a very long time. We had lots and lots of theories. So I'm gonna kind of go over everything that I thought. If you've watched my read along, you saw my immediate reactions. I'm gonna kind of try to piece that out for you and just like talk about the book. So I'm gonna start this off with spoiler-free kind of recap review and then go into the more spoilery sections, but I'll have them all marked out for you so nothing gets spoiled if you haven't already read the book. Quick side note, because I know a lot of you always asks me this, I made my shirt myself, my Team Hudson shirt. I made this after Crush because I loved Hudson so much after that book. So I made this one. I don't sell it, so I can't like direct you to buying it from me, but I will put a link down below in the description because there is one that Entangled Teen sells in their store, and it is similar. It's not exactly the same, but there's a Team Hudson, a Team Jaxon, and a Team Grace shirt I believe that they have available. They're also like vampires are sexy, like all kinds of stuff. So I'll put those links down for you below, but I made mine. Quick recap of what happens in Court, or where kind of we're starting at Court. So we know in the end of Covet, we kind of finished this battle on the Unkillable Beast Island, and we released the Unkillable Beast, and Luca, who was Flint's boyfriend, dies. And so we get away from Cyrus, we kind of win that battle, and Grace is given the crown by the Unkillable Beast. Fast forward into where Court starts. It literally picks up right from then. So we essentially have to beat Cyrus. It's like the whole purpose of this book. Like we have to stop him from doing what he's doing. But we found out that he's actually kidnapped all of the students from Katmere and all of the teachers and has taken them to the vampire court. And so that kind of gets us going and what we need to accomplish and fix for this whole plot of this book. Quick thoughts and overall rating. I did like this book better than Covet. Okay, I liked it better than Covet. I was not a Covet fan. If you watched my last review on Covet, you'll know that I had quite a few things that I disliked about the book. I was pretty vocal about that, and I'm sorry, like if you don't agree with me, that's okay. Like that's okay. We're all allowed to have our own opinions. But Covet so far has been my least favorite of the series. I equated it to, it was my new moon of the Twilight series, like least favorite, but it doesn't mean that I didn't like the rest of the books. So I did like Court better than Covet. It's still not my favorite of the series. I still like Crush the best. I still like Crave second best. And I think this one would probably, of the four so far, fall at my number 3rd spot. I would give this a rating of 3 stars, which means I liked it. Remember, I think a 3-star rating is a good rating. It means I liked a book, okay? I liked it. Spice rating on this one. So this one was more spicy than the others. We kind of get a little bit deeper into Grace and Hudson's relationship. There's definitely some more adult scenes, but still kind of done in a YA way. So I was struggling to give this a spice rating because when I think of like a rating, to me, a 1 is that like sex is not in the book, but like other things might be. And then a 2 would be like, yes, there's sex. And then a 3 would be there's sex and maybe it's a little bit more graphic and it's more often. And this kind of like falls in between a 1 and a 2 because it is present. There are those scenes, but they're not descriptive. They are not very graphic as compared to adult romance. I was having a really hard time picking the Steam rating. I'd say it like falls between a 1 and 2 Chili Pepper because it's done in kind of a not fully fade to black way, but it's not, like, you know it's there, but it's not there. There was one scene though that I like could not wrap my head around. And for those of you who remember what I'm talking about, so there was a scene in the very beginning of the book where Grace is trying to get Hudson to bite her. And I swear Tracy just took one word out and replaced it with teeth. Like, that scene, man, that scene was pretty specific, but it was him biting her. It was not a sex scene, but it was very much written like that. So I struggled with rating this one on spice level, but I think I'd stay between the 1 to 2 chili peppers because of like those scenes and the way that like the non-sex scene but biting scene was written. Okay, if you know, you know. So here's where the spoilers are gonna start, because I'm gonna talk about things that I really liked in the book, so I'm gonna have to be specific. So if you haven't read it, stop it here. So what did I like about this book? I really liked that we had a lot of questions answered for us. So there were so many things that we were wondering, what is going on with this? And we finally got those answers. We finally found out what the green string was, which is Grace's demigod string. We finally found out what happened to Macy's mom. And while it kind of like evolved during the book, we didn't really like what we heard at the very beginning. Like, there was resolution there, and I really liked that. I liked that we kind of knew that she was a spy and she was being taken over, but we got to save her, essentially. We finally got more information about the bloodletter. So we know that she is the goddess or the god of chaos, and that the crone that we met in Covet is her sister, who is the god of order. So it kind of like made sense with her personality a little bit, but I think it just, we got a lot of her backstory, and we got to find out that she was mated to Alistair, that she created all of the magical creatures. Like, we just got more from her instead of just being this mysterious character. So I really liked that we got more of that story. We also got a question answered that so many people have asked in the comments, and we've had so much discussion on it, is how do the vampires age in this book? Like, Hudson is 200 years old, but they're only just going to Katmere, and they're only like teenagers. So the aging process was really unknown. I think that it was good that we finally got that answered. Not good what the answer was, that Cyrus literally just locks them in a crypt and for years and years and years, trying to get them to develop more powers so he could have more powerful vampires. Like, that blows. Not gonna lie, that blows. I didn't like that. But I do like that we finally got an answer, so that it just like ticked off something that we'd been wondering about that was unclear about the world. I also really love that we found out what he promised Grace on the promise ring. It was at the end, but I do love that we found out what it was. I thought it was really cute and obviously like mildly predictable. I do sometimes a little bit wish that there was more, like there was more to it, but it was really sweet and really cute, and I liked that. I liked the banter between all of the characters. I feel like that is something that stayed very true between all of the books, like the relationships between all of them, especially during all of the trials and things that they have to go through, really still gave us each character and gave us their personalities that still shone throughout. So I did really like that. I didn't think that I was going to, but I did end up liking Izzy. When she was first introduced, I was like, what the hell? Like, Hudson and Jaxon have a sister? What? Like, no, we don't need this right now. But then the longer the book went on and the more we got to kind of see her and hear about her backstory, I did really like her. I did feel for her a lot at the end when we found out that the crone was her mom and that she had this emotional response about like not having a mom for so many years and being told that she was dead, but now she's alive. And so, I don't know, just like a piece of my heart went out to Izzy. And I didn't think I was gonna like her, but I ended up really liking her. I do like that we did get some more Jaxon Flint moments, although we were still left with this freaking question of, are they mated or are they not? There were moments, there were looks, there were like, we'll give them some privacy, but it was never solidified. Like, we were never really told. So I like that we got more of them, but I also don't like that we didn't get enough of them. Does that make sense? I liked that we finally defeated Cyrus. Like, this is what was coming for 3 whole books, right? It started in Crush, it went all through kind of in Covet, like that was the end goal, but wasn't really prevalent in that story. And then obviously throughout this book. So we finally defeated him, and we solved like our purpose of the plot. So I did really like that. I also thought that his punishment was pretty clever, taking away his powers with the crown, but leaving his immortality, and then leaving him with Delilah to punish him by like feeding off of him and having him, you know, live through it in the Bloodletter's cave. I thought that was pretty creative and was a good way to help Delilah get her punishment or revenge against Cyrus. Okay, this could be controversial. I liked the ending. Okay, I liked it. But I feel that that's where it should end. Don't at me. Like, I felt that was an ending. We defeated, we had our questions answered, we have moved on, we're enjoying our life, we're happy, boom, over. Leave me on that high note. Leave me with that happiness. Like, the Gargoyle army came and supported her. We have Gargoyle Court. Hudson gave up his right as the vampire king to be the Gargoyle king with her. Like, leave it there. I know there's going to be another book. I know there is. But I argue that there shouldn't be. Like, everything was tied up. And I think one of the things that bothered me between like the last book, like with the last book, with Covet, was that there was never any resolution with anything. And even through the majority of this book, we didn't get any resolution until the end. And I feel like we got that resolution that I've been looking for 4 books. Even just like if we had pieces of things resolved, but we never did. We finally got that resolution. That should be it. There shouldn't be more. And I know a lot of you probably will not agree with that, but I felt that the ending was complete and that it should have ended there. That being said, I also really loved the epilogue. I loved getting to see Grace and Hudson actually living and doing what they wanted with their lives and being together. And I did like the transition between like the epilogue and charm. Okay. When I say that I think the book should be ended, I'm not talking about charm. I'm talking about cherish. I'm struggling in seeing what more, like, is the story that's going to be in Cherish just going to be too much continuation when everything just like came to a resolution that we're happy with, you know? So with the epilogue and charm, like, I do think that was a really good transition. Like, oh my God, I remember. And then boom, now we're going to get charm and we're going to find out what happens. I'm curious because I don't know how charm's going to be written. Like, I'm curious to see, is it going to be actually us back in time? Or now that we're given this, oh my God, I remember statement from Grace, is she going to be telling us the memories? Like, how it's going to be done, I'm not sure. And I am curious to find that out. But, oh, don't hate me. I think that taking the whole Mackay story and trying to take this one minute detail and make a whole nother like storyline to continue the series, I think is too much. I like where this ended. I do. And I feel like I would be satisfied. Like I would, even though I didn't like Covet, if this was where the story ended, besides getting Charm, because like we want that love story, right? If this was where it ended, I'd be happy with that. I'd be content. I'd be like, that was a good series. Like that was a good series. Now I want to talk about things that I'm like not really a fan of, but I want to explain them. Chastain. I just didn't like him. I didn't like him. I thought that if he was insubordinate to his queen. Okay. If the gargoyles are all about like loyalty and all of these things, they've been serving Alistair, like, and they have this now generations down queen. The way he talked to Grace as his queen, I didn't think was right. Like it didn't fit with this loyal gargoyle army. I know that he had this whole she has to prove herself thing, but that's not how kings and queens are. I did love though that at the end he came around and came to support her and they ended up defeating, like that was great, but I didn't like him. I also did not love how long this book was. I do think that there was a lot of filler that could have been cut down. There were a lot of descriptions or excess little things that we kind of went off and described that I didn't think needed to be there. I wish it was shorter. For a YA book, and I'm not talking about just like length this way, because if you look at the writing, the words are super tiny and there's like no margins. I just think it's too long. For YA books, I do not expect them to be over 300,000 words. I expect them to have like very succinct plot flow and purpose. And I feel like there's some scenes in here that could have been cut down. I do also think that there was still some back and forth that did not really fit with the plot or the flow of the plot that I would have liked. Not as bad as Covet, okay? Not as bad as Covet. I felt like Covet was all over the place. This one I felt like was more direct, but there still were some like, okay, we're going here and now we're going this way. And then we're gonna zigzag around here and then we're gonna kind of go back, but not make it all the way and then zigzag a little bit more and then we're gonna go back. So I feel like that I wanted that to be a little bit more fluid, but it was not as bad as Covet. Okay, it was not as bad. So I was okay with it. But I still like that flowing plot. Like we see how everything connects, not we have to go here and then, oh, we're going to find out this little bit of information, but not everything that we need. So then we're going to get directed over here and then find out a little bit of information that it's not everything that we need. And there's never any resolution, right? There's never, like, it doesn't flow. So not as bad as Covet, but still present and still didn't love that. One of my friends said this in a group chat that I have on Instagram, and I totally agree with her. I think so. If you watch my videos on the first book and the second book, I love the like cheesy, angsty, like cliches that are those whole books, right? Loved it. I do feel that once we got to Covet and Court, that it was a little forced. Like it didn't feel as real and as flowy and as unlabored as it felt in the first two books. So that was something that I was just like, oh, it feels a little too much. Like it doesn't feel genuine like the first two did, which I loved that in the first two. So I was like, I don't know what's making me feel that way, but I wasn't the only one that felt it. So I was like, okay, it wasn't just me. The last thing that I really just like was not a fan of, and it's hard to explain this one, but I'm gonna try. When you're writing fantasy, you're always told that you need to have magical rules and boundaries. Because magic is magic. You can make it whatever you want, right? Whatever works with your story. But there need to be clear do's and don'ts. What works, what doesn't work. Because if you have something that just is always resolved because of magic, it's almost like, who cares? I do think that in this book, magical boundaries were starting to be pushed and unclear, and I didn't like that. When we had Grace, who's a gargoyle, who has these unknown powers, aversive to magic, like, it's clear, right? But then all of a sudden we start throwing in, well, now she's a demigod. Well, now she can do all of these things. Now she can control time. Now she can create things because she's Mother Nature. And then we're getting all these potions from the witches who, well, what does this one do? Whatever you need it to. It's like, well, then what's the point? Because if we can just have a potion that does whatever we need it to when we need it to, like, does it matter anymore? Like, I was having trouble in this book with all of the more magic and more things and more feature. It got out of the defined magic of the world that was previously created for me, and I didn't love that. I feel like when that magic starts being really changed, that I start losing, like, the validity of the series. Like, it doesn't matter what's happening anymore because she'll just get a new power that will fix it all. And that just, I don't like that. So here are some just other thoughts, not necessarily things that I liked or didn't like, but just other things that I was thinking. I feel like the first two books were very YA, like fantasy romance heavy. I was invested in the romance. I was invested in Team Hudson versus Team Jaxon. And then the overarching plot of, like, Cyrus is a bad man and then we need to fix it. Once that was over, I feel like I lost a piece of my love for the story. Like, once that plot line just disappeared, it was like, yeah, she picked Hudson and I'm happy because obviously I'm Team Hudson, but it just lost that luster for me. And then I feel like because of that, a lot of other plot needed to be creative, and maybe that's why there's a lot of, like, back and forth and deviation. I don't know, just a thought. The other thing that made me laugh was, like, there were a lot of older person references in court, and I'm really curious which ones you guys picked up on, because I picked up on a lot of them and it made me feel really old. Like the F. Scott Fitzgerald quotes, like, unless you're reading him in high school, which I don't even know if they read him in high school anymore, like, shows my age. Same thing with the yellow wallpaper. I don't know if you guys know what that is. Again, high school reading. I was a sophomore when we read that. The other one was A Few Good Men. If somebody could tell me tell me your age in the comments and then tell me the quote from that movie, and, like, I will send you virtual hugs, because I think that went right over people's heads. And then the other one was The Matrix. Blue pill or red pill? Like, did you guys actually get that? And did you get it only because there's another new Matrix movie coming out, or did you actually know what that was? Just curious, okay? Make me feel old. Also, the daylight ring, Remy, the daylight ring. Like, can we just call him Damon Salvatore at this point? Because if you know, you know. My last, like, parting thought. So at the beginning of my Covet review, I was talking about, if you loved the first two books, definitely read Covet so that you can continue with the series. I think my view on that has changed a little bit after reading this book. I feel like this book could arguably be read without having read Covet. Don't at me. I think you technically could skip Covet and go into this book, and you might be a little confused here and there, but, like, you could read a synopsis real fast and get the big details. I do feel like this book should have just been book 3, and we should have taken the essential pieces of Covet, like the battle at the Unkillable Beasts Island and like few other little things, and just made this the 3rd one, because I feel like that flowed with the purpose of beating Cyrus instead of going off on lots of tangents. Just my opinion, just my opinion. I don't like when series are elongated more than they're supposed to be, and I feel like if you dropped Covet and made it these 3, I would have been happy with that. And lastly, I wanted to say I still have some questions, okay? I still was left with some things that maybe just I didn't catch. So if you know the answer, leave me a comment, because I need to know. How did Remy get out of prison? Because if I remember correctly, he didn't. He told them to go, and only Calder got out of prison. I think she said she was like gonna stick around and try to get him out, but like, how? And are we gonna get that answered with this like Remy spin-off that she's planning? I don't know if I care enough about Remy to know, but like, thoughts as I was reading. The other thing that didn't like completely sit or be resolved in my mind, it still leaves me with questions, was the bloodletter said that she, for her revenge, needed Cyrus to become a false god. But I never felt like that was really addressed. I know Grace said, oh, you're a false god to him when she was like gonna attack him and the army was coming. But I felt like that wasn't clear. The other thing that I questioned along those lines is, why does the God Stone exist if it only creates false gods? Like, what's the purpose of it? If it only makes false gods, why does it even exist? So those were two just like things that I didn't get in the story, and maybe it just wasn't fleshed out enough for me, or maybe I just didn't get it. I don't know. So if you know, let me know. Anyways, I know this was a long video. Thank you for hanging on with me if you've hung on this far. I'm curious to know what you all think about Court. Do you agree with some things that I said? Do you disagree with some things that I said? Leave me some comments below. Let's have some conversation. Definitely don't regret reading this series. And I am looking forward to Charm, which comes out in July. Do I feel like it's over? In my head, after this one, I feel like it's over. Like, I'm satisfied, you know? Charm will be a nice little boost. It will be a nice little love story and romance that I wanted. But I feel like it's done. That's why it's hard to end this video, because I feel like, oh, that was a good series. Overall, it was a good series. Anyways, don't forget to leave me your thoughts below. Can't wait to chat with you guys about this. And don't forget, you can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at The Fun Size Reader. See you guys next time.